All right, we've made an executive decision. We're going to do this as much as we can and as often as we can on Fridays with the coach, Geno DeMarco. It's the football life, but it's also life in general. We'll talk about spirituality. We'll talk about what's happening in world news, local news, and that whole thing about building a better nation and character when it comes to individuals who are a part of our country. And that means and me. So we're going to do some really good stuff here, and I hope that you'll find a way to tune in and join in. As that big billboard says, when you come across that New Brighton Beaver Falls or Beaver Falls New Brighton bridge, made for this, Geneva College, and they are made for so many incredible things for the future. And before we do talk football, let's just talk about the curriculum here. Obviously faith-based, but when it comes to engineering and academics of any kind, business acumen, Geneva College has had rich history. And when you look at some of the alumni, you got a little bit of everything, Coach.
Well, we just celebrated 100 years of engineering. That is
Staggering.
It is staggering, and the way our engineering program is set, students will receive their ABET accredited degree in 4 years. There's a lot of schools that will have what's called a 3+2 program, where you have to go to school for 3 years at one school and then go somewhere else to a larger school to get your engineering degree. But we have had so many people at Geneva go on and do great things in the field of engineering, and you know, our engineering department is named after Michael Baker. So I mean, this goes back a long way. Truthfully, Rob, it's one of the main majors of the main studies that we have that we recruit out-of-state students with, because there's not many small schools that have a 4-year national engineering degree.
Listen, Michael Baker, that company still exists up there at the intersection of 376 University Boulevard, and how things all seem to come together. Earlier today, talking to a friend, a graduate here, Joe Hogan, one of his many mentors, my mentors, Dick Shaw, who is an intricate part of Michael Baker. And Mr. Shaw and I had many conversations, and I was just on that stretch of highway coming back from Chippewa that is named in his honor. He may be one of the most brilliant individuals I've ever met in my life, Dick Shaw.
He's done some amazing things. Really
well,
has.
Let me even take it one step further, because this is about the football life and life in general. We have a man in the White House now by the name of Donald J. Trump. One of the very first things he did, and we had another graduate that I have to mention, Josh Kell, state representative, on my show last week. He, of course, Upper St. Clair, Geneva College football player. He was on my show to talk about what the president is doing with liquefied natural gas. I had former Congressman Keith Rothfuss on as well. And when you think of Dick Shaw, this is something he told me in one of our last meetings at his house, a little fireside chat. I said, "Do you have any regrets, Mr. Shaw?" And he said, "I just wish I was going to be around a lot longer." And I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Because there's so many exciting things that are going to happen." He said, "Rob, do you know what this Shell petrochemical plant, which was in its early stages, reminds me of when we at Michael Baker were helping OPEC lay the groundwork and placing the piping for what is now OPEC in the oil industry." So he had such a vision, and I get chills thinking about it, that he was already looking ahead to what could be, and how sometimes things happen for a reason, and you have to believe some of the things that early on in the Trump administration that are happening, there's going to be some exciting things happening in the natural gas industry.
I think that's a God-given gift that some men and women have, is the ability to be visionaries. And they're not guided by what they see now, but they actually can see things connecting and producing something in the future that creates, like you said, something that we don't have, we don't exist. In my marketing class I was teaching last night, it was about the definition of marketing. We have so many different definitions of this, but one of the definitions is to create new markets. It's to create an idea, for a new type of market. And this is a great example of this. And like we got literally liquid gold under our feet in the state of Pennsylvania. And now you're seeing an entire new industry break through.
Yeah, and I find fascinating the whole Gulf of America, Mount McKinley coming back. Look, I'm a Democrat, but I love America. And I just love the sense of patriotism I feel right now.
But, I think that there's just been so much discussion over the last 20 years on just shifts of what have happens in different paradigms of who belongs to what party or whatever. That if we really truly, as Americans, sit down and say, what are our core values? What do we believe in? And you hear the term America First, it turns a lot of people off in some ways. But it really is about the God-given land that we have and what are we doing to keep it that way? And how can we help others by doing it? And somehow we've gotten off track of that. We kind of got off the rails.
We did.
We really did.
I think we're going to definitely be heading in the right direction. A couple of other programming notes. Monday night, former state representative Jim Christiana, who's now a licensed NFL agent, M7 Sports Agency, the sports complex, underwritten by the Shell Corporation, not Monaca petrochemical plant, but Shell America out of Houston. I like how he thinks too. He'll be with me at 8 o'clock. But here's how things are changing in this region. I go back to Richard Caligiuri, Pete Flaherty, so many of them were good friends of mine, Bob O'Connor, mayors of Pittsburgh, Dick Caligiuri, Sophie Masloff, an incredible friend. But the one thing in common, they were all Democrats. And that's good, that's fine. But now we have Corey O'Connor, Bob O'Connor's son, Allegheny County Controller, running against the incumbent Ed Gainey. But my buddy, who was at my house last year, former member of the Pittsburgh Police, Tony Moreno, has announced he is running again as a Republican. One of the things to give people a little bit of a preview that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, the world is changing. The Republican shift, we have 2 Republican commissioners here in Beaver County. I covered politics in Beaver County forever. It was always the Democratic machine. Never happened. Doesn't mean anything other than people are starting to think about the big picture. And Tony running as a Republican is going to make it very interesting once we see who will be the Democratic representative after the May primary. So keep praying for America. Keep hoping for the best for our children and grandchildren, because hope is something we have to cling to and hang on to. And I just feel there is a lot of hope in America right now, and that's a good thing. And I see it every time I come to Geneva College. All right, let's talk football. You and I grew up in the 70s. I want to talk about the Steelers, and hopefully going to have a chance to do a little bit more of this as we roll through the big game in a couple of weeks, and obviously the championship action this weekend in the NFC and the AFC. But I still love the running game, Coach. I mean, as much as I love a nice, deep ball being thrown and, that acrobatic-like catch and gliding into the end zone, it's great. But there's something about earning it and working and grinding. And when I think about some of my favorite Steelers, I think of the late, great Franco Harris, dear friend, incredible human being. What they did when they won their first Super Bowl against Minnesota, he rushes for over 100. And then you look at when Jerome was there and the bus was rolling and that running attack. And I look now, Saquon Barkley, and that kid Cook can run too for Buffalo. The running game, we've talked about this before, but it truly does matter in football.
Well, it matters in so many different ways. To have an offense, you have to be balanced, whatever that means. I mean, you have to be able to put the defense in a position, whether on any down you're going to run or pass. That's the most simple thing in football. And you were talking about Barkley. He made a cut the other day and set up that long run before the Rams, had a chance at the end. He set that up, and he was so patient to the hole. The explosion that he has in his lower body is just so incredible that he was able to make that cut and set up the block. And this is one of the things that you see with him that you don't see with other running backs. And we've been talking about this, ironically, we've been talking about this as coaches this past week, just on this whole idea of the running game. And you look at the way Barkley runs. You look at You look at the way some of the other guys did. And I know I'm going to bring up a bad name and Steeler but Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell had was the one that had this ability to go slow to the hole and then just burst. Either way, we used to call these things jump cuts. Dorsett did the jump cut. Yes, I do. There has to be a running game in football. It opens up so many things. But Barkley is special because there aren't many running backs that have the ability to actually stop and be able to explode with their lower body into a gap, and then once the linebacker could be a half a yard out of position, unblocked. But because of this ability to be able to explode into the hole and just go, that was a sensational run.
By the way, New Brighton Gridiron coming up in March, having their night at the races. So please support them. Coach Makuga, I've been busy. I'm here for you, though. We'll kind of regroup here in a couple of weeks just to get caught up. But the reason I brought New Brighton up, I asked you some of the best players. And I was thinking running back, and you actually came up with two before we went live to tape here. Willie Murray, out of our alma mater. I watched him a little bit in high school, but I was doing games in Ohio. I had a crew up here doing the games in New Brighton, and I would always ask them, and they would say, "This guy's the real deal." Speaking of big and powerful, I was talking about Jerome, obviously not that big, but what type of running back was Willie Murray?
When I look back and we put Willie in the I formation, we put Andy Snyder as a fullback, and Andy himself was an explosive blocker. What a incredible career both of them had here. The more I watch the kid at the Ravens, the more I watch the way he runs. Derrick Henry. It reminds me in some small college way of Derrick Henry. That's how. I remember we played Urbana and we called an ISO. And we even missed the linebacker. And Willie had the ball, and he bounced off the linebacker. He made a cut to the right, raced 60 yards down the sideline. Nobody touched him. And I sat in this room with our offense, and they said, "Congratulations, everyone. I want you to look at this. No one blocked anybody on this play." And Willie Murray just went 65 yards by himself. And you see this, it's why I don't understand in the NFL, and it's very hard because it is a business. We look at these players, we look at the person from a corporate standpoint. They're looking at these positions as a product. How many people are going to come out to see our guy pitch for the Pirates?
Skeens.
Despite and in spite of the record of the Pirates.
Excellent point.
So here's a question I'm going to ask you, and I don't know how I got off track on this, but we tend to do this, and then you can get me back on it, okay? So what's the difference between the Pirates and the Los Angeles Dodgers? They both play baseball. The Pirates are content with providing the entertainment of baseball. Because we'll go watch them, and they're content. And in some ways, they just like being part of the gang.
Here's what people don't realize. Go ahead.
The Dodgers are aggressively trying to win championships. It's a different mindset. It's a different mindset.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I like what the Pirates are doing, and I will always support them, and it has a lot to do with being a fan, because that's what I am. I grew up a lifelong fan, still am. You go to a Dodger game, you're paying top price for everything, down to the hot dog that you're going to consume. Look, you go to a Pirate game, the pricing is fair, it's family affordable. easy accessibility to the ballpark, still the best ballpark in America, which means something. But it's like on any given Sunday, that movie, Major League Baseball, all of a sudden things come together. You get one, you get two. That's why recruiting. You're an athlete, you're watching this, you're sitting with your parents, and you're thinking, Geneva College. I was talking to a student who played quarterback in Ohio. He's got some interest in this school. You come here, one or two players, everything can flip. Melvin Cobb is the other player we were talking about. He was an exceptional football player.
We've had incredible running backs. So,
Right.
So we started a discussion about running backs. I got off on a tangent.
That's okay.
Just about organizational philosophy. And the reason I did that was this. There's something going on right now in the NFL where they're not going to put an enormous amount of money into a running back. I mean, this is the mantra that we heard in the last 3 years, correct? Mm-hmm. And you know what? They're all run. Their legs will run out by the time we get them from college. You know what? We can find a running back here or there. We need this and that. But then we look and we see, you got Barkley and you got Henry.
And Cook for Buffalo.
And you got Cook, and I don't know financially what they got invested into Cook, but what I'm saying is, you know what they did to get Barkley, all right? And you know what they did to get Henry. And they're making that position a focal point of their offensive production. And you look at the two offenses and you say, where would the offense be without those two guys? And I think personally, the Steelers have always been a running organization, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've had that type of running back where people would say, invest. You know, there was a lot of hope that Najee would be that guy.
Didn't turn out that way.
You know, and you know, the other guy, like we were talking about, kind of he just got off the rails.
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell had so much God.
Listen, I guarantee you, if he could go in that Wayback Machine and go back in time, he would have made some different decisions if he could go back. I think he regrets more than anybody can imagine. I just hear it in some of his comments, but he may be one of the best that we never saw.
So we started this conversation about talking about Franco Harris and Jerome Bettis.
Right.
And Jerome Bettis. We're talking about running game. And, you know, it was good back then, but somehow a couple of general managers got together and just said, well, we really don't need running backs. We need quarterbacks. We need receivers. We need all this other stuff. And then we're going into this playoffs and we're looking and we're saying, these people are running the football. Now, the biggest thing that's changed is the complementary quarterback. What the quarterback's doing now as far as being able to run or throw, run and throw, it has changed pro football. I said this to a couple of recruits that were here. You know, I could give them some old stories, and I'll just say something relative to, you know, in the old days, it was the college guys would borrow things from the NFL. Well, now the NFL is borrowing things from the college guys. And you're seeing these offenses, you're seeing these quarterbacks, you're seeing these things that are happening. And the teams that have done it have adapted very, very well to it.
Well, I want to finish up with Chuck Noll, then we'll get to the games.
Yeah.
But I believe it's hard to get a franchise quarterback. They're such a rare commodity. And people realize now how fortunate we were to have Ben. But I believe an adequate quarterback, say in that top 15 tier, even 20 tier, not in the top 5, you get a good running back that you can, and you're the coach, this is just me as a fan and somebody who's been around the game, you can control the clock, you can control your destiny, you keep your hands on the ball in the red zone, you have more than a chance to punch it into the end zone, and you can, with one or two, like we saw many times with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, you can take a big chunk out of real estate, meaning yardage, quickly. I think a great running back I think it can balance everything out for you, even if you don't have a franchise. Just a game manager, someone who doesn't turn the ball over and can get the ball into the breadbasket of the running back. If you have a great running back and an offensive line who believes and can plow forward with that thought process, I think you can win in the NFL.
If you have a bottom 15 quarterback, all right?
Okay.
and you want to play that style of ball, you better have a defense that's ranked in the top 5.
Explain why that is, Coach.
Well, because you're playing the equivalent of small ball in baseball. And we've done this. I mean, in the last 8-9 years with the triple option, our whole idea was get the game into the fourth quarter, win with defense, win with the running game, use the clock and manage the clock. Sometimes the best way to stop people is to keep them on the sidelines. So you look at, hey, can we hold on to the ball and then score? Well, you look at a couple of drives that happened this past week, and I look at NFL drives that are lasting 15 plays. Well, why is that? Well, probably because defensively, they don't want, I know we keep talking about that, they don't want that other offense on the field because, as we say, with Ferraris, they're great if they're continually running. But if they're in the garage and waiting, not so much.
Not so much. Chuck Noll, the Steelers of the 70s, then we'll get to the games. Free agency would have never let it happen, but have you ever just sat and thought about that talent? I mean, the Lamberts and the Andy Russells in the first few, and then Danny comes in, obviously, for 3, but you had Dwight White and Ernie Holmes and Joe Green and L.C. Greenwood. Mike Wagner, truly one of the best ever at his position, never gets enough credit on all 4 of those Super Bowl winning teams. You had Franco, you had the blood and guts and the strength of Rocky and Bradshaw and Swan and Stallworth and Kolb and Brown and Mike Wagner. I mean, that guy was tremendous when I think about him. And of course, some of the best centers that the world has ever seen, with Ray Mansfield being the first. But Chuck Noll just had a way of making it all happen. That was maybe, in my opinion, you can look at the Niners of the 80s, you can look at the Cowboys of the 90s, but when you think of the Steelers in raw talent, a free agent in Donnie Shell, I mean, think about it. They had an incredible football team.
Well, all you need to do is go to Canton, Ohio, and it'll tell you the story of just the talent level. But those teams, there was something about those teams that go beyond even what we knew at that time. That team was held together by a group of leaders. There were so many leaders, and they were in different aspects of it, and just knowing a few because of being a Christian school and working with some of the guys back then. I mean, we used to have an athletes in action camp here when I was a player that you would have John Kolb, you would have all the people that we talked about, you would have Donnie Shell, you would have these people come down for 2 days, 3 days to spend just time working out together and time at the camp, and they're mentoring young men, all right? And I was one of them. But that component that happened came about because of what they were doing in Athletes in Action off the field. I mean, a group of guys that were committed, faith-committed guys, like Mel Blount. Oh. And see, the thing about it is, I mean, these guys were not like, John Kolb was the world's strongest man. And these were men of strength, and they're having this effect on that team in the locker room. The same thing happened this year at Ohio State, by the way. And maybe one other day we can talk about that. But I don't know. I mean, so you talk about Chuck Noll. We got 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. All right? We're going to talk about who's going to end up going to the Super Bowl. Andy Reid, if he wins 2 games, that's 4 and 6 for him. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't get a chance to talk to all the people in Kansas City at that time, but we kind of got an idea of what's happening right now with the Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
And that should give some of our younger viewers an idea of what it was like in the 70s here.
Well, so last night I get home late after work, doing some work, and I look up and it was 1973, Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, Dandy Don, Meredith, great quarterback in his own right, never gets enough credit. Number 17 in your Dallas Cowboys program. And I love Frank Gifford, but Howard Cosell, still my favorite, love him. But it was the Miami Dolphins and the Steelers, 1973.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So it was right before the 74 Super Bowl that launched that whole,
Right.
and how young everybody was, and Don Shula. And then I started thinking about, what did Shula and Noel have in common? Paul Brown, offensive lineman, rotating offensive linemen, bringing the plays in. So you are a disciple, all the assistant coaches that you have. It's like a garden. You plant the seeds, it grows. I love all of the nuances and all of the connections, and looking back on that cradle of coaches. We talk about Larry Bruno all the time, all the successful coaches we've seen here. So there's so much that comes from playing football that's more than just football.
Yeah, and when you talk about a coaching tree and why has Andy Reid's coaching tree been successful, it's just the methodology of how they go about their business. It really is. It's just, imagine working for someone who's the boss, and it's just how they organize, how they plan, how they organize, what kind of staff do they put, how they implement ideas, what kind of controls do they put on to find out if it's improving and not improving. I mean, those are basic functions of management, and every coach has this. You know, some will use more of a scientific method, and so you're looking more at numbers. Others are going to be more subjective and get that gut feel. And it's just, is it the science? Nah. Is it the art of coaching?
Well, listen, I love the whole thing that's happening now. And the reason I say more than football, because these people are all incredible human beings and have done incredible things outside of football and have had interest in things that many of you would never know about. But I love the fact some love a good novel, some learn to fly a plane, some become wine connoisseurs, some become art dealers, some become motivational speakers. So there's so much more to this game than just 60 minutes of football, but it is what puts you on the launching pad for the rest of your life. Coaches, real quick. Ben Johnson, now with Chicago, I love what he said. I'm going to make them get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, I thought that was a classic line.
Yeah, that's a club.
Great brain. Now you got Glenn with the Jets, a Bill Parcells disciple. Love that. But I got to tell you, of all the things that have gone down, the news today of Pete Carroll in his mid-70s going to the Raiders, I absolutely love it, because this guy, going back USC, Reggie Bush, Seattle, Russell Wilson, Super Bowl, I love Pete Carroll.
I just love the idea that at that age, he's continuing to be a visionary. So the very first things when we talked here about people who are successful in industry and marketing and business, and they're visionaries, I mean, that's what Pete Carroll is. I mean, these coaches have the ability to see something down the line, to be able to put something together. He's looking at that and saying, all right, what do I have in Vegas? And I can do this, this, and this. And he's already putting the pieces together. Like, I can't imagine taking a job in Vegas. I mean, really. What we should be talking about right now is the situation that happened in Jacksonville.
Yeah, what's going on? The GM's out now, and
well, you find out, you bring people in, they turn down the job, they don't want the job, they didn't get the job. And then this is an interesting thing. And again, we talk how closely football and is related to management, and then you find out that maybe the person doing the interviewing is the problem. Maybe it's not the person they're interviewing.
it's the person that's doing the interview.
Maybe it's the person doing the interview is the problem. And we're going to find our guy. We're going to find our head coach. We're going to be able to find the guy we want. Maybe the head coach at Jacksonville wasn't the problem. Maybe it was the guy behind the head coach who thought he could run and put a team together.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons why the greatest coach in the history of the game, even if he never surpasses Don Shula, who was great, Bill Belichick said, because really when you think he wanted to be general manager, many opportunities, Howard Blank I thought would take him to Atlanta, but he didn't. And I'm thinking Jacksonville, now the GM's gone, he hasn't signed at North Carolina, but it's kind of ironic. What does he do yesterday? He signs at North Carolina, because even he is saying, I'm not so sure I want to be a part of that in Jacksonville either. Because you got a quarterback, got everything you'd want, But I think he just wants to prove everybody wrong, and he wants to win at North Carolina, and I love that spirit.
I think it's the same thing Pete Carroll has. It's just like, I'm going to show you.
I guess the point is, he obviously doesn't need the paycheck. He just loves coaching. It's like you. You just love coaching.
There's a lot of motivations behind coaching and why people coach. You know, it's the list goes on and on. It could be just from a standpoint of competitiveness. It could be a standpoint of just the idea of putting something together and being a visionary and seeing something before it happens. And we did that here back in '93. I mean, we're sitting in a room right here that at one time was this wasn't even here. It was just a block, cement block, and it used to be our team room, made up of 75 old beat up chairs and an old chalkboard, and somebody in '93 said, "Hey, let's set up 75 chairs upstairs so we have just a little team room." And at that time, people laughed here and said, "We only have 50 kids on the team." I said, "We'll have 75." And sure enough,
75.
we had 75, and we had a team room, and then it went to this, that, I'm saying, there's visionaries, there's reactionists, and then there's critics. And the critics, you got critics in every organization. You got to get rid of them. You have to get rid of them because the reactionists are enough that when things are going good, they're going to go good. When things go bad, they're going in another direction.
Well, know this. This is a beautiful complex. It's an incredible school of faith, great academics, great setting, College Hill, football history galore, sports history galore. So if you're thinking of being that one player that could make a big difference, I hope that you will lean in if the phone rings. Now, let's take a look at the games, and I've got to get on the road, get a nice cold Coca-Cola, kick back, relax, and make my way to my next stop on a busy Friday, and of course on the radio all weekend long, beginning at 5 a.m. KA. Now,
that's a shocker.
I know, but what am I going to do? I love it. All right.
By the way, everything that we've just done, I would say, we have just thrown spaghetti on the wall, and we've covered everything.
Listen.
Do you realize what we've talked about in the last half hour? We had a little politics. We talked about no. We're talking about organizational leadership. We talked about Geneva a little bit. We talked about running backs. We did a little politics too. That was something.
You know what would go good with that ice cold Coca-Cola? A meatball hoagie. Remember those days?
Oh, the meatball hoagies?
Oh, man.
Yeah, when you can actually eat them.
Yeah.
And it does, yeah.
Remember you would get like 2 plates of spaghetti?
Oh.
I mean, it was like nothing. Your mom put it on the table with the extra sauce.
My mom once said, here we are. Now we're talking about our past.
That's okay.
This is it. This is the last of the whole collection of.
We're going to sit down and break bread.
It's just, we're really going to, it's just,
Saloni's bread.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be Saloni's. Go ahead.
Yeah. These are like incoherent ramblings.
That's okay.
Of a bald man and his friend.
That's what pasta does.
That's what this is. Incoherent ramblings of a bald man and his friend.
You know, I knew my mom's pasta was good. My dad would be perspiring at the dinner table.
So I go to my mom, I'm sitting down, and I'm like, on that second one, and I'm just putting all kind, and she says, "Jane, you're getting a little pudgy." She used the word pudgy. And I like, "Really? What do you mean pudgy? What are you talking about?" She goes, "Well, I see, like, you have big helpings of spaghetti. And all these years, like, you've been shoveling it out, putting it out there, and now all of a sudden, like, I'm pudgy." Like, this happened like 30 years ago.
My grandmother used to stand behind me and massage my neck while I ate. That's how much she loved me. God bless her. And every time I hear the word pudgy, you know what I think of? This is an inside joke. Pudgy DeMarco. The greatest nickname, maybe Nemi's pretty good too, but Pudgy DeMarco. And he wasn't pudgy, and he isn't. But I'm just saying, I love Pudgy DeMarco.
Yeah, he was something. He was something.
All right, listen.
Now we talk.
And we're done.
Okay.
Washington, Philadelphia. Does Jaden Daniels have enough experience to pull off another one?
What?
And the Sirianni connection You know, of course, the brother, W&J.
Mike's.
Jim Christian is on Monday night. He's a graduate of W&J.
Yeah. But Nick's a Mount Union guy, and Mike's a Mount Union guy. So let's not give the W&J that much
The only
credit.
place they don't cut anybody, and they have like 500 kids on the team.
Mount Union is the mecca of football. At any level, I don't care. People can send me.
Down there in Alliance.
Over in Alliance, right
And
over
you know
there.
who played quarterback in Alliance? Lenny Dawson, who played for the
Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, all right, so let's get to this thing.
Go ahead. Who do you like in that game?
You asked me last week about the Lions. You said, hey.
I know.
And I immediately, I just said, there's no way. I cut you right off.
I know.
And I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, now I got to get back in front of the camera with Rob, and he's going to tell me.
I picked him too. Even Joe Gibbs, who was on a national radio show this week, the great Joe Gibbs, racing in NASCAR now, getting ready for the Daytona 500, tremendous team owner, but even he is absolutely blown away with what Jaden Daniels is doing.
I know. You know what?
I think
I gotta go with Nick. I have to. I gotta go with the Eagles.
Philadelphia, man. Yeah, I mean
I
Jalen
have to-
Hurts
well,
and Saquon
it's
Barkley,
just-
AJ Brown.
I just don't know how in the world you stop what they do offensively. They're playing at home. They got a rookie quarterback coming in. I got a lot of people picking the Commanders because of everything, but I just don't know if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you've been in situations like this, you're not going to let a rookie quarterback come in and kick you out of your path to the Super Bowl, and that's why I have to go with the Eagles.
My favorite two, Doug Williams from Grambling, Washington, but my other favorite is John Riggins, okay? Listen, Riggins said why he wanted out of New York with the Jets, and he said it very respectfully. He said because it was all Joe Namath. He said, I wanted to carry the football. So Joe Namath has been a factor in everything. All right, the other game. Two incredible quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Man, 7 straight AFC championships for Kansas City. It's just unbelievable. So who do you like?
Last week, did I not tell you about Bobby Babbage?
Yes, and you were right.
And about the defense.
Yeah.
And for Buffalo.
Spot on.
There's no way I can pick in this game. But I'm part of the Kansas City Chiefs only because I've got one of our own.
I know.
Is there. And I just am not going to do it. If David Girardi was not with the Chiefs, I would tell you that I want to see the Buffalo Bills. If David Girardi was not with the Chiefs, all right, so don't edit this. If he was not with the Chiefs, I would want the Bills to win the Super Bowl because somehow, some way, that city and that area deserves the opportunity to win a Super Bowl from everything they have gone through. But nostalgia and karma doesn't win football games. How can you go against Patrick Mahomes at home in Kansas City? So, and they didn't look inspiring the first half out there. The Texans, we were like downgrading as Steelers, or maybe we can go down to Houston and beat them instead of going to Baltimore. The Texans played a heck of a game.
They did. So, in closing, and this is in closing because I'm on the clock, I think. Anyway, I forgot to wear my watch. You know what they say about people who don't wear watches?
No.
They have confidence. So I have no confidence. I just forgot my watch today. Anyway, if you were the coach of the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin is a Hall of Famer, what do you think are some of their immediate needs? What do you think, quickly?
Immediate needs.
Immediate needs. And they're not going to get a franchise quarterback. Immediate needs. What do you think?
I think they're going to have an issue at tailback. I really do. If it's going to be if this is what's going to continue, like
You can't waste another first-round pick on a running back.
You can't.
Defensive tackle?
You can't. You need a 3 technique. There's no question they got issues. Like I said this 2 weeks ago that I wouldn't comment about the Steelers, and You'd love to get a 3 technique that would absolutely complement what they have. And there's going to be some changes defensively going on. There's going to be changes in that organization. But we have issues, and they are many.
Yeah.
That was
That's why I come here
that
every
was
week.
a Chuck Noll quote.
I know. And get on with your life's work. So that's what I'm trying to do. All right, I'm headed to parts unknown. Just keep watching. We will reappear shortly, but we're going to try to do this every Friday. Just talk about a bunch of stuff because that's what we like to do. So join the huddle and spend a little time with us. Have a great rest of your day.